Josh keeps saying there's only like a month and a half left, which sounds like not very much, but I think it's tons to stress about things. Welcome back to the Skill Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's episode 6 of Road to the Rockies. Josh and I are building comp trucks in class 1, 2, and 3, which we'll be using to compete at the Rocky Mountain Regionals being held somewhere in the state of Colorado, hosted by Team Garage Hack. We're really looking forward to this event, and these are the cars/trucks that we're building for each of those classes. There's been some significant changes since last time you saw me. I was able to wear them down. Josh built me a cage. Yeah, and here it is. Josh built me this one out of steel instead of titanium because I cannot weld titanium here. I can't weld at all. I'm brazing. That's all I can do. I'm a brazer. I think that's acceptable to say. But it is exactly the same. And do you know how he was able to do that? He used a jig, which I almost started printing, but then I realized if I can wear them down, I won't need to print this at all, which is exactly what I was able to avoid. But here it is. This is the jig that Josh used in both cases to build both cages. It's amazing. He was able to construct this. He's such a smart. I don't know. I don't really want to say this out loud, but Josh is very smart at some things. Design being one of them. It's pretty incredible that he made it so you could easily, repeatably make these cages, and that to me is pretty amazing. So let's take the body off here for a second and get a better look at this cage, which is pretty spectacular. He was able to, I guess, TIG this together. All of the tolerances are exactly the same as his cage, and it fits perfectly, as it should, because both of our bodies are exactly the same in every dimension. Amazing. So to go along with that, of course, we did need to make a windshield. There's my windshield piece. Gosh, does that ever look good? I am chuffed. I did not glue it in place yet. It still needs to be trimmed ever so slightly to get it to fit flush with the rest of the body. You can see there's a bit of a lip exposed on that side, but I did want to get the cage here before I did that. So now that I have the cage here, we can start to do that. When I molded the windshield, I did it in a slightly different way than I did the rest of the body, and that was to incorporate some of that carbon chop toe, which is what Josh is doing his whole body in. I opted to use it as a filler. So I laid 2 sheets of fabric, then a bunch of chopped toe in order to build up and give it a bit of a randomized pattern on the inside to allow that epoxy to really bite into something, and then a final layer of fabric again. And I think it did add a lot of strength. It's definitely a thicker piece. It's going to need to be thick because it's probably going to take a couple of hits straight on those edges. Of course, the cage in the back is going to help too, but I wanted to give it as much rigidity and strength as possible. I can't get over the weave, man. The weave looks so good. Most people agree that it's better than chopped toe. The other thing I'll need to do is trim the back portion here, make room for the rear down tubes to go through the back of the body there. And then there's a few other things sanding wise that I've got to do, just a little bit of cleanup here and there on some of the areas where that JB Weld plastic or carbon fiber bond seeped out of the edges, but otherwise it's pretty clean. Panel lines are pretty good. Focus. I'm pretty impressed with how clean the body panel lines are there. It did turn out pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Okay, to go along with all of these parts, let's put that back in there for a second. Get in there. There we go. Now, it's obviously not quite right because it does need to come down quite a bit at the back, but you can see that's looking like a Porsche, man. I'm really thrilled. It's come a long way. And I mean, it's been a long time, let's be honest. This has been a ton of work. If you watched last week's What's on the Bench, you watched me paint and detail this flat 6 motor. 2 turbos, man, for extra turbo. This does give you an idea of the paint scheme that I'll be going with for the car. Fear not, I won't be covering up all the carbon fiber. I do want to show off the fact that this is a carbon fiber body, so I'm going to find transparent paint to, well, not transparent, translucent. Yes, clear, but with a tint, so you can see the carbon fiber weave underneath the paint. And I think that's going to look really cool. This obviously goes in the back, and it goes that way. And you can't see it. But don't worry, you will be able to see it because Josh went ahead and designed this really cool back whale tail for the Porsche. And it even has this nice bit of mesh. Now, if you were watching his Friday night stream, he sent me a little jig here, and all you do is put some mesh in, smush it down between those two layers, and add it to the carbon fiber wing. Yes, this wing is carbon fiber. I used my new Bamboo Labs Carbon X1 3D printer to print in carbon fiber PLA. It's very lightweight. It's about 2 grams lighter than just standard PLA, much stronger, and it just looks so badass on here. I'm really thrilled with how that looks. And of course, we are going to cut out a hole in the actual trunk lid so you can see the motor underneath. It's going to be awesome. Josh is also working on some files to mount this properly to the chassis. Speaking of chassis, still isn't here yet. He's cutting those apparently now. He's going to ship one to me very shortly. I do have to get his motor back to him, which is this guy right here. I think you've already seen this one a couple of times, but I thought I'd share it again. I'm very happy with how these turned out. He did an awesome job modeling them up, and I did an even more awesome job painting them. Okay, so what's next? Well, we've got to sand the seams where the JB weld is poking out. We've got to cut the holes for the rest of the cage to sit properly, and then a ton of other stuff. In fact, I've now got links. I've now got a panhard mount. I've now got shocks, some shock accessories to tart them up a little bit. And then we've also got a VFD transmission. This is the standard VFD, which I can make quite lightweight by not adding a lot of the extra plastic parts. And then we've also got the 21% overdrive option gears to give it more overdrive. I will be pairing this with a set of F10 portal axles. Those have to be built as well, so there'll be lots of building happening in the next few days. But you can see that there's progress and things are starting to come together. And I'm really excited about this. And I'm so thrilled that Josh took the time to make that cage for me. I did bribe him though. Just so we're all aware, he didn't do it out of the kindness of his heart. He did it out of guilt. Okay, let's move on to Class 2 and see where we're at there. If you're enjoying this series and you are interested in competing in a sorrca level event, put a comment down below. You know I love reading through your feedback and I try to answer as many of them as I can. And if you like this video, you like seeing things about comp trucks, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already and ring that notification bell so you get updates anytime there's a new video from the Scale Builders Guild. Okay, Class 2 has been completely sanded once in like 400 grit. And that's all the sanding I think I'm going to do. The last time I did a 3D printed body was for Road to the Scale Nationals last year, and I ended up doing a full resin coat over the body. So instead of spending a ton of time sanding, I just painted on a layer of resin, 3D printing resin for my resin printers. It actually does a really good job of curing and creating a nice flat surface on which to start doing your body work. So any little gaps that need to be filled afterwards can be done on top of that resin coat. And it does make it a lot smoother, a lot faster. So we're definitely going to be doing that again this time. Okay, but one thing I did do differently this time was add some strength and rigidity by laying some carbon fiber fabric on the inside of the body. And there's not much science to this, or art, in fact. It's pretty ugly. But it does create a nice solid internal structure that will hopefully keep this body in one piece. That's the goal only. I don't care if it flexes, I'm fine with that, but I did want to make sure it was as strong as possible. And I definitely added a lot of rigidity to a 3D printed body by doing this. I am pretty happy. I think this is sort of key to the whole process of using a 3D printed body in something like Class 2. It's going to add so much strength. I won't worry about it because I was pretty kid gloves with the other two from last year. This one, not so much. We're going for it. We're going hard. That's it for body. One thing that's changed on the chassis, you now see I've got my final versions of these new sliders made. And these ones were printed, and you may have heard me talk about it earlier. And these were printed on the new Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon, which is a new 3D printer to me. It's been out for a few months. It's gotten fantastic reviews, and it is so freaking fast and great that I could see myself using this all the time. The Prusa has been fantastic. It's never let me down. This one is new on the block, and I am really thoroughly impressed. It does a great job. These were printed in a carbon fiber PLA, and it's so smooth and so lightweight, but very strong. Much stronger than your typical PLA print. Is it on the same level as PETG? Probably not, but the weight savings, I think, are really where it shines. And these look fantastic. I'm really happy with how they turned out. Plenty of room for activities in there if you wanted to have some activities. Maybe an ESC or a receiver. Lots of room in there for those to fit still, which is really great. The best thing, though, is they contour perfectly to the body and do a great job of creating a nice solid mount point. I did include a couple of holes here in case I do decide to mount the body that way. 2 screws on either side should keep it pretty much in place. We're gonna have to see about that, though. I haven't decided completely if that's the right thing to do or not. But yeah, that's one of the more big portions of this week that have come out of all of my efforts. I'm really happy with how these turned out, and they should do a pretty decent job of sliding over obstacles and staying out of the way too. So you get the slider points. We may even do like an outer metal bar, so there's a bit of metal slider points too. As long as they're fixed to the chassis, I think that's all that really matters. So something to investigate. If we need the points later on, we can do that. Okay, so next on the list for Class 2, we have to start thinking about an interior cage. We're going to try to keep that as easy as possible. I'm thinking design it up in 3D and then vacuum form it in styrene, so it's nice and thin, nice and light, but still get all the points of a full depth interior. That's the goal anyway. So we're going to see about that. Just so you can see how this does fit, it's perfect. It sits right on there. Absolutely perfectly. No wiggle room left to right because there shouldn't be. It was designed around this chassis and the width and around the body. I'm so happy with that. Really excited about Class 2. Now, Class 3, nothing. Not a thing. This is getting to be a bit of a joke, I think. I do have to get started on that because time is rapidly disappearing. And like I said, it's basically a month and a half until we are on the rocks competing. So a lot of things have to happen between now and then. Hopefully I've got the time to finish everything. I think that's going to do it for this week on Road to the Rockies. My thanks again to Josh for welding up that cage for me. It did take a lot of effort off of my table because there's no way. I saw all the tools that he had. There's no way I could have gotten a cage to look that good and be that accurate. So I really do appreciate him taking the time to do that. Pretty awesome of him. I'll be sure to get that motor right in the mail. Okay, I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.